Hello friends, welcome. Friends, as I was browsing the news articles today in the morning, I came across this article published by Business Standard 10 hours ago, which talks about CPI series from February 2026 to include rural housing inflation. Now friends, we are all conscious about the CPI series because we track CPI series very closely. Why do you do that? Why do we do that? Because CPI series is a measure of inflation. Inflation is the most important KPI, economic KPI, which we have to keep tracking because there are many things which are directly linked with the measure of inflation. For example, RBI's ability to reduce rates, the liquidity, and then the macroeconomic, this structure of the country is dependent upon inflation. If inflation is contained, then we will have a better economic progress because all our progress is not going to get diluted because of loss of value of money. That's why inflation is very important to track. Now, Ministry of Program and Statistic Implementation has created several studies which they do on a ongoing basis, and those studies are measuring the consumption pattern both of urban and rural segment across various states. Now these consumption patterns are measured across various category of items. Now one of the item is housing. Now friends, you know that in the current series, if you go here, this is the dashboard which I maintain in my website. As regards CPI inflation, you will see if you choose rural index, you will find that the housing part is absent. The housing index is not being tracked for rural areas because it was considered to be a very small part of their overall spend. That's why if you see the weights, the housing weight does not include, and therefore the inflation, when you measure inflation or measure general index, you don't consider the housing sector as far rural area is concerned. But this article which I saw in the morning is talks about that now the housing sector in rural area has become an important part of their spend, and therefore it is important to include in the next series which they are going to start from February 26. Now friends, this video is not about whether housing sector has to be included or not. This video is about trying to understand the changing consumption pattern in the rural and the urban segments of India. How the consumption pattern has changed, because if we understand the changing consumption pattern, then only we are able to understand the ability of the businesses to raise prices. Because if a particular segment consumption pattern for a particular category of market changes or increases or decreases, because that category of business will have more leverage to increase their revenue by raising prices, because then only the people will be able to, because people are already spending more in that particular segment, so the leverage of that business is going to be high. So what I have done, friends, I have created an Excel sheet for both urban as well as rural area by looking at these reports which the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation keep publishing. These sheets are called Household Consumption Expenditure Survey. In this, what they are doing is they are doing a detailed survey to not only understand the structure of spend, but they are also measuring monthly per capita expenditure, which they call MPCE, for both rural and urban segment, and they do it for all the states also. In this video, we are not going to talk about state, we are only going to talk about the urban and the rural segment, and we are going to see how MPC has changed and how MPC contribution to the various vertical of items which I have captured in this Excel sheet has changed over a period of time. Now this survey which I showed you right now in my this is the latest survey for year 2023-24, but there were earlier surveys which were done, and the data for the earlier surveys I have captured here. So there are how many surveys? 6 surveys that you can see right in front of your screen, and the last one is a ratio of this value to the this value, which will measure that how that particular category of item has changed over a period of time, right? But before I explain to you when I go before I dive into each and every item, let's understand how this sheet is structured. So if you look at this, this is a description of item. So it's called item group, where we have cereal substitutes, then we have gram, pulses, sugar, milk, all items are there, and then all are aggregated down below at food items, and we have got non-food items here, and these are all aggregated here. So the total expenditure has been mapped to 100. Therefore, these items are all percentages because they will all add up to 100, right? So these add up to total here, these add up to total here, and if you add these two, you will get 100. And also if you add individual items and just exclude the subtotals, they all add up to 100, right? Got it? Then there is one more important component here, which is down below. This is very, very important because this gives us a very important message. What is this? This is called monthly per capita consumption expenditure at nominal price and monthly per capita consumption expenditure at prices which at the rupee value of 2011-12. So this is real and this is nominal. That the top is nominal and the bottom and the line which is below is real. Now for the rural segment, you'll see that the monthly per capita consumption expenditure was 486 rupee at nominal terms, and today it is 4122 rupees in nominal terms. In real terms, based on the value of the report which was done, or the survey which was done on 2011-12, which was 1430, because you see, because nominal and real is mapping. So if you take this as a reference, this was 978 and now today it is 2079. Now, why I am telling you all these things? Because this becomes a very important reference to measure one important thing. What is that? The how much in real terms the consumption in rural area has increased. Because if I consider this as 1 and then divide this by this, because it becomes reference value, you can see that compared to the report of 2011-12, the rural consumption has increased by just 1.4 times. Now, compared to this, if I go to the urban table, you will see it has increased to 2.66 times. Therefore, it is clear that the consumption at the urban area is significantly higher. It has increased significantly higher compared to rural area. It's also a reflection of income. Urban income has increased disproportionately. Therefore, we can also conclude by looking at this data that the growth of India has not been inclusive. For the last 15 years, our urban areas have disproportionately grown and the rural areas have not grown to a level that the urban area has grown. Otherwise, this consumption levels in real terms compared to the survey result of 2011-12 shouldn't be so different. 2.66 versus 1.45. Can you see this? There is a difference. So this is one message which I wanted to talk about in this report, in this video. Then let's go to individual items and see how the individual items, spent a consumption in both urban and rural areas have changed. Now you can pause the video and have a look because these are all color coded. And depending and higher the value it becomes more red, and as you go down below it becomes greener, right? So this is how the coding has been done. Now, in order to understand that how much, whether it has increased or decreased, I have taken a ratio of this column divided by this column, because this is the survey of 2023-24 and this is the survey which was in year 2000. So you can see the cereals, the protein product, right? It was the maximum spend in the rural area was 22.16%. If the 100 rupees was their consumption, 22.16% was going in cereal. Now it has decreased to 4.97. So it is 0.22, right? The ratio is now 0.22. And it means this divided by this is now 0.22. Okay. So cereals and cereal substitute, the numbers have gone down drastically. It has really gone down. The people have now no longer spending that much amount of money in cereal and cereal substitute. The gram, it has gone to 2, right? 2 times, right? Pulse and pulses product, it is 0.47, right? It has become 50% almost like. Sugar and salt, also milk product, it has round about same, 0.96 if you see. Vegetable also round about same, 0.98. Fruits, yes, 1.87. So people have in rural areas started spending more on fruits. Dry foods, almost like 4 times what they used to spend earlier. This shows a little bit of expenditure on a different category of fruit, which I find in the urban area also. We will look into it. Egg, meat and fish, yes, the spend has increased. Edible oil, the spend has decreased, right? Spices, it is 1.19 times, not much, but it has increased. Beverages and processed food, this is important. This has gone up to 2.35 times what it was in the start of the report in 1999-2000. So the total food, if you see, it was 59.4%, now it is 47.04%, which is 0.79 on a ratio of this number versus this number. So the on food, the people are spending less. Now, non-food item. So if you look at non-food item, the biggest increase has been on pan, tobacco and intoxicants, 1.34 times. And then these are same. Then education, it is 1.68 times, which is very high. Medical, 1.64 times. Medical non-hospitalization, same. Hospitalization actually has increased. Conveyance has increased 2.58 times. And this item which I was talking about, which includes mobile expenditure also, 1.76 times, right? Entertainment, 2.43 times in rural areas. Rent, and this is the housing part, right? It is 1. That's what the business standard report was capturing. Clothing and bedding, 0.83. And then we have got footwear, 0.87, and the durable goods, 2.47 times, right? And non-food total has increased by 1.3 times, right? So that's the rural area. Now let's go to urban area, and I'm going to compare the rural area. So I'll open the rural ratio so that you can clearly see that how you can compare urban versus rural. So this is the comparison here. So you see almost similar pattern. Cereal has gone down. Cereal substitute, urban is 0.5, it is 0.29. Gram is 1.64, it is rural is 2. Pulses is 0.3, almost same. Sugar and salt, almost same. Milk products, almost same. Vegetable, almost same. Fresh food, you can say it's almost same. The rural is higher, urban is 1.34 times. Then dry food, it is 2.68 times urban. Rural is 3.99, almost like 4 times. So rural, this is very outlier as far as rural is concerned. Then egg and meat and fish, urban is 1.14 times, rural is 1.48 times. The edible oils, almost same. Spices, you can say almost same. Beverages and processed food. Rural has gone up to 2.35 times. Urban is only 1.75 times. So you may imagine that the processed food culture has really taken off in rural areas, right? Total, you can say almost same, right? Then we have pan, tobacco, intoxicants. You can say almost same. Rural is slightly higher, urban is slightly lower. Fuel and light, you can say almost same. Toiletries, you can leave aside. Education, rural has gone higher, urban is 1.38 times. Medical hospitalization, rural is higher, 1.64 times, urban is 1.36 times. Non-medical, you can say almost same. Conveyance, you can say that rural is very high, 2.58 times, urban is 1.53 times. Then this item. Urban is, which is the item where mobile phone services are included. Urban is 1.21 times and the rural is 1.76 times. Means rural has now spending more, right? And then we have got entertainment. Entertainment, rural is much ahead. 2.43 times, urban is 1.53 times, right? Then rent, etc. 1. So it's almost same. And then clothing, you can say almost same. Durable goods, rural is 2.47 times, urban is 1.9 times. Food total is, urban is 1.6 times, 1.6 times, and rural is 1.30 times. So, friends, you can clearly see how the character of our economy has changed, how the rural urban spending has changed. So, what is of concern? which I find is of concern, is that people have started spending less on cereals, which protein. It's very, very important that people need to eat more protein, etc. Maybe their basket is same because the prices have increased, no doubt about it. Because if you look at the expenditure and see the quantum of money that both urban and rurals actually have disposable income, because it is clearly, this number is an indicator. Means if you look at the inflation starting from FY 2012 till now, this is significant, right? But yes, from inflation point of view, if you add everything, from an urban and rural point of view, maybe the urban one may be matching, because I have not done that analysis. I should do that analysis also. But rural has lagged behind. It is clear that rural has lagged behind. So our economy, the structure of economy that India has, where we call it, inclusive growth, is not happening. It is clear that the consumption, change is so different. If you take this as a reference, and if this is only 1.45 times versus the urban spend, which is 2.66 times, it's really a matter of concern, friends. So that's all I wanted to talk about in this video, friend, because this is a very, very important topic. I don't know how many people are aware of this. Because I don't know how many people have aggregated this data, because this data should be right in your fingertips. Because if you are doing businesses, if you are trying to analyze business, and if you do not understand how the spending pattern is changing in urban and rural areas, there is no point. Because you will be assuming that, the mobile tariff will increase by 400% and everything, and we are going to become a rich person. The mobile operators are going to become very, very rich. It's not going to happen. So people talk about that India is a, the data prices are the cheapest in the world. I can challenge the mobile operator, increase the data prices by 4 times. Your revenues are going to drop drastically because the elasticity is not there. So it is not right to say that India is having the cheapest data in the rest of the world, because you are compelled to give cheap data, because if you don't give cheap data, people is not going to buy mobile services to an extent that you are expected you are expecting them to purchase. That's not going to happen. So there will be definitely a point of inflection that if you raise your prices too much, your revenues are going to fall, friends. That's the that's the storyline, and that's why I became so interested in these kind of data, right? Because just without any reference, you can't be saying things, just out of the and make it up and then think that things are going to become better. You need to look into these numbers. These numbers are pretty important, friends. And we should do a state-wise dissection of this number. I already have written an article. I can share that article in the description and you can have a look into that, especially on the telecom sector. Thank you, friends, for your time. I'll come back with a new video next time on a new topic. Thank you very much for listening.